episode of the program, and we're getting ready to start another 12-week course, and this time we're going to talk about Swift. And Swift is the new language created by Apple and announced at WWDC on the 2nd of June in 2014. And we're going to walk through, and we're actually learning this as we go along, so you're going to be learning it along with us as this process continues. So as usual, what we normally do is we talk a little bit like this, and then I'm going to play a segment back, and I'm going to walk through the actual language. But before I start the segment, what I do want to remind you of is you can follow us on YouTube, or you can get our shows on most of the podcast directories, iTunes and Dogcatcher and most of those. And in fact, if you find one where we're not, please let us know. We'll make sure that we get there. We also have a Roku app. You can download us and watch us on your regular TV right in your living room through using the Roku. And you can always go to tech-n.tv and get all the show notes. In fact, during these type of training things, we always put the code out on the site so you can download it and play with it. Either play with it along with us as we do it, or you download it afterwards and learn it that way. So without too much more time, because this first segment is going to be a little bit long, we're getting into just the basics of this new language by Apple. And today we're just going to learn the basics, like setting variables for conditional statements, branching statements, case, if, then, else, do, whiles, all that kind of stuff. And then next week we're going to come back and we're going to start on classes. So we take the good part of an hour just for this very first segment, so I don't want to waste too much time. So without further ado, let's get into this, and we'll see you next week. All right, we're going to start out with the new to learn Swift, we need to know Xcode 6 beta. Now, what I'm going to show you, I can't show you a lot about the beta because of NDA, but what I'm going to show you is nothing more than is publicly available. I'm going to walk through the Swift language, and we're going to learn a little bit about it. And to do that, you have to have currently the beta version of 6 is the only thing that's available, and to get that you must be an Apple developer. So if you have not paid the $99 to be either an iPhone developer or a iOS developer, an iPhone, iOS, or an Apple Mac developer, then you can't even download this. So that's the first thing you have to do. But if you have either one of those two, you can come out and download the beta version of Xcode, and we need version 6. So when you first load up 6, it's going to let you start with a playground, which is what we're going to use. This is what was demonstrated during the keynote speech at Apple. So it's public knowledge. So I don't think there's any issue with showing it. And basically, everything I'm going to show you about Swift is also publicly available. So this is all out in public. I just can't do any NDA stuff. So we're going to click here to get started with a playground. And when we do that, we are asked to create a new playground, and it defaults to lottery, which is like a learning area. I'm going to put this in here, and we're just going to call it the TZ playground, and it's going to create a new playground. And let me move this over here, and you can see that it starts out basically with something you can use. So here's Coca, which is the user interface for the Mac, and they do a really simple thing. They define a variable, a string equals hello, playground, and you see over here on the right, this is going to show you the output. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to talk about some variables, and they have two ways of defining a variable, and there's constants and there's variables. So I'm going to do both here first. You see right here, they defined a variable called str, and they made it equal to hello, playground. And the other thing you can do is set a constant. Then to do that, you use a let statement. So we're going to create a variable called goodbye, and make it a let, and we're going to say goodbye everyone. And you see this is now over here set to goodbye everyone. Now this language does have types, although it is kind of automatic. It will figure out what it thinks it is if you haven't defined it. So here we have not defined the string being equal to a string, but it sees it's in quotes, so it assumes it is a string. But if you want to make something, let's say another variable here, we're going to do variable and it's going to be called number, and you make it equal to 5, it's going to assume it's an integer. But you may not want to, maybe it's not an integer, maybe it's a double. So to do that, you would come over here and you'd say number, and you put a colon, and then after that you put a space, and you can say it's a double. So now I have defined this variable called number, and it's a double. By default, it would be integer because there's no decimal places there. Or if I put like 5.0, it would assume it would be a double. So if you don't want to assume things, which you should never assume things, but with like strings, it's pretty safe generally to assume it's a string because it's in quotes. You should always just define it like this. So it's a little different structure than what is done in most languages, unless you are used to using some of the code that Apple already has out there with Objective-C. They do some things like this. But for as far as other scripting languages, if you're coming from it, this is going to be a little different. Most scripting languages are typeless, and in this case, it does have types, but it does try to infer the type based on what the content is automatically. So we'll run into that a little bit more. So after this is defined, so if I would put in here and I would try to change goodbye is equal to just say later, we're going to get an error here saying that I can't change goodbye because it's a let value. So it's a constant. They call it a let value. It's the same thing as a constant, so you cannot change that. However, I could take string and I could change it to later, and I'll get no errors on that because it is actually a variable defined right here. So it's good to understand the difference between variables and constants in Swift. All right, and you can see here as I go down through here, this right side gives me my output, which is very cool because you can see what you're going to output, especially when you get into loops and things like that. I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. It can show you the history or the future of the thing as well. All right, so let's see. Let's get past variables here, and let's see. We have a conversion. So let's do this. I'm going to give you a little bit of another example. So let's do a type conversion example here real quick. So let's do this. We're going to create a label, and we're going to just do let's see. Today is the, and we're going to then do another let day num. Don't do day number. And today is actually the 3rd, so we're going to say let day number equals 3, and then we're going to do let day description equal to the label plus the day number. And what it's going to do, it's going to give us an error because what it has done is it has determined that label is a string and day number is an integer. So what I have to do is convert this day number to a string, and that's just a simple string command like this. And day number. And now you see the error is gone, and over here it says today is the 3. So if this was, since this is automatically defined as an integer, it doesn't equal. So basically this cannot be automatically created as a string, but it took the first thing it found, which is label, which is a string, and inferred that it's a string. And then when I tried to attach an integer to it, you can't do that without conversion. So it's a type conversion issue. That's, since we are in a typed language, this is something you got to kind of consider whenever you're developing inside of Swift. So now let's look at inserting variables into strings. So let's say, let's see, cars. We have on our car lot, let's say we have 35 cars, And then let's say we have trucks, and we only have 7 trucks, let's say, for example. And then we're going to create another variable, and it's going to be a summary. So let's say this is going to be the car summary. And it's going to be equal to I have. And then to put a variable in, all you do is you put the variable in parentheses, but you got to put a backslash first. So you do backslash and then parentheses and cars, just like that. And then you say on my lot. So right there you see on the right hand side I have 35, and I should say cars. Just make it nice and complete. I have 35 cars on my lot, just like that. And you can also do calculations. So let's say this is the lot summary, and you could say I have, and in this case you want to do cars plus trucks on my, let's see, it'd be total vehicles on my lot. And let's do that. So here you see I have 42 total vehicles on my lot, and that's how you can put variables right in the middle of a string, just like that. And one of the things that you also will notice that this language has no termination characters. It takes me a little while to get used to that because most languages I use have a semicolon at the end. So, but it's not required in Swift. Okay, so let's go on and let's take a look at. Let's look at arrays, for example. So we're going to come down here a little bit farther. We're going to get a new line or two, and we're going to create a very simple array of colors. So we're going to call it color array, and we're going to make it equal to, let's see, we're just going to do a few colors here. We're going to do red, and we're going to do green, blue. Can you tell I'm a programmer? Just did the primary colors, RGB, yellow. We'll even throw in some pink in there. How's that? All right, so what I have done is I just created an array, and you can see right here on the right, that's the array that I created. And let's go down here, and let's say I want to change the color of pink. So I'm not a pink person, so I'm going to say color array, and that would be number 4. So remember, everything starts with 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we are 0 as the defaults, and so that would be number 4. And I'm going to make it equal to cyan. Alright, so if I look at the color array, and now again it would be cyan. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do color array 4. There you go. It's cyan right there instead of being pink. And just to show you that it changed, let me put this beforehand. We're going to do it like this. So before I changed it, it's equal to pink. Here I changed it to cyan, and then there it's cyan. So that is a very simple way of doing an array. So let's go to a little bit more complicated of an array. And actually, they use the term dictionary in here. It's like a 2-dimensional array in the way I look at it. And if you come from JavaScript, you're going to see this is very familiar to you. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create an array, and let's say we're going to create a friend list. And this is basically going to tell are our friends male or female. Well, let's do this. Let's see where our friends work. So we're going to do this. We're going to create a variable called friend list, and you see it auto does some things for you. And oops, I'm going to come back over here. Didn't mean to do that. And let's see my first friend. And my first friend, Michelle, works at the Department of Labor. It's going to say Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and then we put a question mark, and let's see, I'm going to say I have a friend, actually I have a bunch of friends named Mike. I know it's a little confusing, but I'm going to pick out Mike, and he's a mechanic. Just like that. So there's that one, and I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. So we're going to end our array just like that. And if I have now created basically a two-dimensional array, and let's say later on down in my program I want to actually add a new friend, so we're going to do this, and we're just going to put in Jackie. And Jackie is an enterprise security, so I'm just going to put in enterprise security person. And you see right here we have a little warning: unresolved identifier friend list. Did I not spell it correctly? I did not. So this is a very case sensitive language, so there we go. So now we have Jackie in as enterprise security. And if I haven't tried this yet, but I think if I just do let's see, 0. Nope, it's not going to work. Alright, so still learning the language as well. Alright, so that creates our dictionary, and let's see if we can give you an example of how you can use the dictionary. Dictionaries are used for like in a while loop as well. You can do some really neat things in while loops. So we're going to do this. We're going to say for. So here we're getting into for loops, and it's going to be the name, a friend name, and friend occupation, and it's going to be in friend list, just like that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to let's see, how can I think I just do a print line, and we're going to say friend name and put a space and do friend occupation, just like that. And then I gotta close that, and it's not showing on the right here. I don't know why it wouldn't do that. So let's just do it this way. We're just going to put to the side over here friend name. There you go. So 3 times it comes through the loop, and if we click over here, so there's the friend occupation, and then here's the friend name right here. So you can see how it outputs it. And the other thing you're going to notice here is it's sorted differently. I'm not quite sure why that is. Oh, you know what? I sorted it by the first thing I did was friend occupation. So I think that's something that the playground does, because when you're going through the loop, it should actually only show you the order that it's in. Let me see how do I get rid of this. Alright, so we're back over here again. So as you can see, I'm sort of learning this as we go through here as well. It's a very brand new language. It only came announced was yesterday. Alright, so that's how we do the for with. This is very similar to how you do it in JavaScript. So if you're used to using things like this in JavaScript, you'll be able to do it real easy in Swift as well. Alright, so let's look at if statements, or conditional statements. So we're going to look at both if and the case statement real quick here. So the the if statement actually was very simple. The way it works. The case statement's a little bit different though. So let's say for example, let's do this. Since we're in our little loop here, if friend name is equal to, let's say, Jackie, for example, then we just put in our little brackets here. We're just going to print out friend name on the right over here, just like that. And why don't you like friend name? All right, so you see Jackie over here because it's only going to match on one thing. And these are going to match 3 times to the loop. So basically, the if statement does not require it to be in parentheses. It's not a logical result back. It goes a lot deeper than that. And actually, I don't think I quite understand how deep it goes. When we get to the switch statement here, you'll see how it can be done differently as far as typical case statements are. You either you match or you don't, and they have it's almost like a nested if statement, if I can think of it in any way to put it, but that's the way I can think of how to describe it. So you see here, if there is no then, so you just put everything in brackets, and if you want to do else, it'd be just like this, and you could just say friend occupation instead of a name. Let's just do that so you can see that what it does, and let me get this cleaned up a little bit, just like that. So you see now I have 2 times that I get data back and else. So it works very similar to most languages that use this type of structure. The difference is that you don't put this in. It's more like Visual Basic, where you don't got to put it into brackets, and it's not a logical value that comes back. So let's take a look at case statements, because this threw me for a little bit of a loop when I was playing with it. So I'm also going to take one of the examples that they used, because it's a good way of demonstrating this, and they did it with, I think, vegetables. And I know it was a 2-word thing, some kind of, I think it was either green pepper or red pepper, I can't remember. We're going to take ours and use red pepper. And then we do the switch, and we're going to use the vegetable. Now remember here, vegetable is a string, and so then we're going to do case, and you can do the things that you normally do with case statements. You can make it so it's a compare. So like if it's celery, for example, oops. Okay, so you saw I had a little trouble there because at the end of this case statement you need to have a colon. And when I did that, it wanted me to assign a type to it, and then when I didn't, it complained until I put a line beneath it. So there's obviously still a few little bugs to be worked out in this because I wasn't doing anything wrong. It just wanted to try to help me out, and I didn't need the help right there. So anyways, we're gonna go in here and then celery. Crunchy celery. Okay. So here's the other thing. Some languages do, some languages don't. There is no need to break out of the case. It just looks for the next case statement. So I'm going to do this, and we're going to compare 2 things. So it could be a cucumber. If I spell this wrong, don't laugh. And maybe a watermelon. Oops, put it in quotes. Just like that. And then I do another. See how it's doing that? It should not do that. And now it's complaining because I don't have anything under here. So you are eating juicy fruits. All right, so I'm going to do you're eating juicy. So there you saw I did, in the case I said if it's cucumber or a watermelon, which I guess technically watermelon may be a fruit, but I don't care. It's still juicy and it works for what we're trying to do. And what's it complaining about here? Let's see. Oh, okay, so I don't have a default yet, which is okay. I haven't gotten that far. I'm going to add a default. So now let's get into one where it kind of confused me a little bit. And I understand it now, but it took a little bit. We're going to define a variable called x. And we're going to say where x has the suffix. Of pepper. Just like that. And again, it wants to put, like I said, there's still a few little things to work out in here yet. Let's make some space so it's a little easier to read. All right, and then what we're going to do, if this is equal to pepper, is we're going to say veggie is equal to I'm going to say, is it a spicy? And we're going to say pepper here. Let's see, X is what I called that. X question mark. Alright, so the one other thing I was complaining about still, and it's still complaining about, is the default. We're going to put that in here now. And again, it wants to define that when I don't need a definition. And we're just going to say the veggie is everything is good in soup. Well, I guess a watermelon probably isn't good in soup, but just for now, we're going to do it that way. And let's see, you're still complaining about something. Consecutive statements on a line. Oh, yes. You are correct. Okay, so there we go. And you see the result is going to be, is it a spicy red pepper? Because here's where I had the problem is I didn't know how X was getting defined. And I still don't quite understand their logic behind it. The only thing I can think of is that X is equal to whatever the variable you're using is. And I haven't found that defined anywhere yet. But that has been, in multiple cases now, I've seen that happen, that X is equal to the switch variable. So I'm assuming that's just something that's built into the language. Again, I did not see any documentation anywhere about that. All right, so that is conditional statements. So you saw we did loops. Let's talk back and do looping statements. So you saw here we did for. For is very flexible. It can work a lot like the C, where if you want to just do a count. So let's go up here and we're at 4. And we're just going to say, okay, so here's, you see how it's telling me where it's at. And the reason this is not valid is L isn't defined anywhere yet. So I have to define it, but I can define it right here. So I just do var L, just like that. And we're all good to go. And then in this loop, I could just print L, for example, in our case. And 9 times through a loop right here, you see it's going to be, actually, so everything's 0 base, so we're going to go back and make it 0. This should be equal to 10 that way, 10 times. So we're just, that's our loop. That's one way of doing it. So you can also do it more like the Visual Basic way, where you can say for L, let's see, it would be L in 4, right? Is that how it works? Oh, I'm sorry. It's not Visual Basic that does this. It's another language. But basically, it's a. So you want to go from 0 to like 20. You could do this 0 ... 20, and that's your for statement, just like that. And here I'm going to put out L again just to show you, and you can see it does it 20 times. So basically, it's a range of 0 to 20, just like that. So you can do it in either one of these two formats in as far as ranges go. And let's see. Okay, let's go look at while statements. While we have while and do while both, and they are again very familiar if you're been programming in C or JavaScript or whatever. It all works very similar, and it's as simple as basically the same conditional as the if. And again, there is no reason to there's no reason to put things in parentheses in this language. It does not require it. So I need to define my variable here first. I just realized I didn't do that. So yeah, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to set up a variable of n equal to 2. And if I wanted to be, okay, so here's the thing. You also need spaces between certain operators like that. If I wanted to be sure, I can come up here and say n is an integer, just like that. And this says it goes through 6 times. It should, and that's probably right actually, because it's 2 times 2, which is 4 times 8. So yeah, that's right. So you can see that's our while loop. Now we can do it the other way around. And we can come up here and we can say, we'll go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to do n equals 2. And then we're going to do, and we're going to say n is equal to n times 2. And then we come down here and we say, while n is less than 100. And there we go. Again, here we go, 6 times through the loop. So you can do it in either way. So if you want to do something first before you check its condition, you do it that way. If you just want to do it, set a condition and go from the top, whichever way that it works best for that. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and clear out this. Actually, I'm not going to clear it out as much as I'm going to. I am going to clear it out, but I'm going to put this out there in the show notes so you can have it. So let me clean this out just like this, and I need to go store it. So I'm going to go, give me 1 second to save this. So we do this and new document. All right, there we go. All right, so it's now saved. So what I want to get into now is functions. So functions have some features that are foreign to some people, probably. They're kind of foreign to me, although it's very cool how it works. But a basic function is very basic. I mean, it works like almost any other functions. It's just function, and we're going to call it the hello function. And we're going to say you need a person's name. So here's the name, and we want it to be a string, and you do have to define this in here. So, and then let's see, let's do what's today. I think this is how they did theirs in their example. What's so today, or no, it'd be day today. Let's call it that way. And we'll again make it a string, just like that. But now we have to define our return value. So our return value is going to be a string. And the way you define a return value is you put a space and you arrow, just like that. And in our case, we're going to do a string, just like that. And then we just define our brackets for our function, and we're just going to do a simple return. You know, we're returning a string, so we can just do like this, and we have the name variable, so we do backslash and then in parentheses then the variable name, just like that. How is your, And we're going to do another variable just like that. Day to day going. Question mark. And then that's it. So we're going to come down here and we're going to then call the function, the hello, and we're going to say it's Brian, just like that. And today is Wednesday. Actually, it's Tuesday, but it's okay. I already typed it in. Just like that. And there you go. Hello, Brian. How is your Wednesday going? So you see how simple it is. Now, a couple of things you can do as well is you can return multiple values. So we're going to do this. We're going to do a weather thing. What's the current high and low temperature for the day? So what we're going to do is create a function, and these are not going to be real values, obviously, but get temperatures, just like that. And I'm not going to pass any variables. I'm just going to return, values. But I'm going to return multiple values. So here's how that works. In our case, this is going to be a double. If I spell it correctly, there we go. And we're going to have another double because I'm going to return 3 values, 3 different temperatures, just like that. And we're going to come in and define our function. And I am going to return, and again, I'm just going to fix values in here, but you could have code that will return each of these values individually. That our current temperature is 75. Our high temperature for the day is 81. And our actually I can make this integers too, but I could say this current temperature is 75.5 if I wanted to. So I can make these integers. I'm just doing them as doubles. And then our low temperature this morning was 53. So that's the function right there. So to call this function, all you do up here is you just get temperature, just like that. And you see right here, it returns the value of 75.5, 81, and 53. So I just returned basically an array of items back from this get temperature routine. Something that I can't say I've seen before in a language, and it's kind of neat to be able to return more than one thing, because typically you got to pass it back as a variable or set a global variable to get the data back. So this is very cool, a very cool thing I really like. All right, so let's take a variable number of input. So you've probably seen this before. Sometimes some languages do it as a default if you don't put anything in there. But I'm actually going to do it as basically passing in an array. So let's do it this way. We're just going to do an add routine, or an add function. And we're going to call it add together, just like this. And it's going to be numbers. And I'm not going to do integers, but we're going to say integer, just like this. Again, case sensitive, it seems to be. The dot 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 allows you to show that it's going to be a variable array of inputs. And then our return is going to be a summed integer, just like so. And I'm going to first of all define a variable sum, and I'm going to define integer, although you would not have to do that because I'm going to make it equal to 0. It would do it automatically, but it's a good example of defining the value there. And you also see it's complaining about something, which is probably because I don't have a return. Yeah, so I'm missing a return, which is good. It's a good reminder. So now I'm going to basically do one of those for loops, and I'm going to define a variable called number, and I'm going to read it in from the array of numbers, just like that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add to sum the current number, just like that. That's all there is to it. And then right down here, I'm going to return the sum. All right. So what we can do is we can add together. And what I'm going to do is put in, let's see, 25, 11, 28, for example. So right there you see it's adding up 64. And we're going to come down here, we're going to make this just a bit bigger. 75, 93, 36. So you can see it's a variable number. So it doesn't matter how many you put in there. Just like that, it's going to add it together. So it's a variable number of inputs. Basically, it creates an array when it does that. So it's not necessarily a default. We're going to talk about defaults coming up, especially when we get into classes and things like that as well. So let's talk about nested functions. So this is a new concept as well. At least it's new to me. You have the ability to put a function inside of a function. So here's how this works. Let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to use an example that I found on the Apple website because it's a good description and it'll do a better job of what I can do. Return add nested. I'm having trouble typing. Here we go. Add nested, and I'm going to return an int in this case, just like so. And I'm going to define this variable in here. We're going to define it as we're going to define it as 10, I guess. That'll work. Then I'm going to define another function, and the function is I'm just going to call it add. For simplicity, we're going to add together a number. And what I'm going to do in this function is just basically add 5 to this. And then after I define the function, I'm just going to call the routine add, just like that. And then I'm going to return y, which is a new value. So all I'm doing basically is defining a function inside of another function, setting a variable equal to 10. I'm calling that function. All that function is doing is adding 5 to the variable that I defined at the top. So here's something to remember: the scope of this particular thing. Any functions that are defined inside of a function have the scope of the values that are in the parent function. I hope I just didn't lose that as far as describing it, but basically this function can access any variable that's up here, and then I'm going to return the value. And again, there's not much to this one. We're just going to add nested, just like so, and you're going to see 15 is the answer. 15 is the answer because I'm doing fixed calculations here. What I could have done is added a value, and just like so. I would have had to put a value down here and make it 10. And then this would be, it's add value like this, and you'll see that I can change this number now, and it's a variable that I can pass in, and will recalculate based on the internal function. So even the value I passed in is available to the functions that are beneath this function. So it just shows you the scope that we have here. Let's see. Okay, so here's one that's a little confusing. Actually, it's kind of neat. Some languages can do this, and this one is it's a way of passing a function. This works differently than most other languages, I must say that. So you can pass a function into a function. So the function you pass it into can call the other function, which allows you to have maybe one routine that does the logic, but you have a different calculator for each of the different scenarios. So you pass into the logic what function that needs to call to get a certain result back. We're going to create a grading scale. So let's see, we're going to create a function, and it's going to be called grade, and we're going to pass into it the score, which is an integer, and we're going to return a string. How's if I type it right? Just like that. Alright, so, and we're going to do the switch statement. And we're going to do score. And I really don't know what scores are these days for A, B, and C and all that. So if I'm way off, just forgive me for that one, because I've been out of school for a long time. So let's see. If score is greater than say what, 93. That one, no string. This is the bug that I had before. I want to return A, just like that. And you're not liking something that I'm doing. I'm trying to figure this out. Let's see, what don't you like about? Oh, again, this is a case-sensitive language. Very much so. So it'd say it's greater than or equal to. Okay, I hope this is going to work like I think it's going to. All right, so we're going to come down. We're going to do case. And here's the other thing: is it drops out. There's no break, and it doesn't fall through. So if it's greater than or equal to 93, it's going to do return A and it's going to quit. So in that case, I can pretty much just do if it's equal to or greater than, I don't know what the next number would be. I don't know, 86, I guess. 7, yeah, let's do 86. Then, I don't know why you do this to me. It would be return as a B, and it's going to do, we're going to do another case statement. If it's greater than or equal to, all right, it doesn't like something I'm doing here. I know why you don't like this, but let me fix this. Greater than or equal to, I'm going to go down to C's. I'm going to just do A, B's, and C's on those 79. Return C. Just like so. And you still don't like what I'm doing here. Okay, so you see these X's here. I figured out the problem. I paused the video because it wasn't working the way that I understood it to work. But the reason is, and I'm going to show you here, is in this case statement, unlike other languages, you can't compare it greater than or equal to, apparently. What I could do in this case, though, is I can say a range. So if I say 93 to 100, it's going to be happy with that. And in this case, it would be 86 to 92, like so. And then in this case, it would be 79 to 86. And I would return a C, just like that. So it's still not happy with something. Oh, I don't have a default. So our default's going to be, you failed. So we're going to do default. And we're going to return an F, just like that. Let me clean this up. And again, there's weird things about this editor. Oops. There's another one. You can't tab everything over together. Alright, so there's our grade. So we started out this to show how to do a function call to a function call, and that's what we are looking to do right now. So let's see. Alright, so we're going to clean this up a little bit real quick. We're going to do another function, and this is going to be the grade set. So we're going to call this function set grade. And what we are going to pass in is the, let's see, what did I call it up here? The score. So score, which is an integer, just like so. And then we are going to return the grade, which is, I'm just going to make it a string, and just like that. Okay, the other thing I need to do is I need to tell this, like so. the function. So we're going to say this is a grade. And it returns a string. Is that correct? It returns a string, yes, and it takes an integer. So it's going to be int, and then outputs a string. And this is going to complain if I don't make this uppercase, like so. All right, so this looks weird, right? And it is weird. And I'm going to do this. So we're going to do is return. So we're going to return. And actually, this isn't the best way to do this. This is a good demonstration of it, though. We're going to return the... How do we do that? Grade of score, just like that. So what we do in down here when we call set grade, the score is going to be, say, 94 for the first one, and then we're going to send it in the grade routine, just like so. So we just do this, and you see we got an A. So I'm going to add a couple lines here to bring this up so we can see it better, show you what's going on here. So what's happening is I am calling this routine, which will have the logic in that you're talking about, but to get the answer back for some of the logic, I need to be able to get the grade. Well, rather than calling the grade from in here, so here we're going to do this. We're going to do the swing grade. So we're going to do this. We're going to call it swing grade. And in this case, if you are 90 or above, or you're an A, and if you are, let's say, we're just going to swing everything down a little bit. So 89, and we're going to do 70 to 79. Oops, this is 89. 89, just like this, and then 70 to 79. And I'm going to give myself what would be before. Let's say it's a B. Let's just do 88. So now you see I'm a B. But let's say you need to do the swing grade. I can take the swing grade function and now pass that in. So rather than give me the regular grade, I get a swing grade. And when I do that, it says I'm a B. All right, yeah, that was a bad example. So let me do this is giving a score of 90. And we're going to go back and we're going to put grade. So you see I'm an A at 90. But the regular grading score, if I change the function that generates the grading, I'm going to go back to a B now. So I would normally be a B, but if my logic, if you want to get the grades based on the swing grade, you would use this logic right here. So I'm passing in that function. This function, the logic never has to change. I just got to provide it a different grading system. So that's how you call a function within a function, or you send a function to a function to be used inside of the function. I know it's a lot of function words there. All right, so I have one more thing I want to cover this week, and then next week we're going to start out with classing. Classing is actually very cool with this language. I did some put some really good thought into it. There's a couple of things that are, I'm not quite sure why they did it that way. I'm sure there's a reason behind it, but we'll talk about that next week. So here's what I want to do. The last thing I want to do, first of all, let me copy this code over to the notes so I get my screen a little clearer, and all this code will be on in the show notes. So, all right. So now that I'm back here, I'm going to create an array, and we're going to call it. We're going to call it numbers, for example, and we're just going to put in, oh, I don't know, just a few numbers. It doesn't really matter. Just demonstrate just like that. So we have our array now of number. I'm going to call it numbers. Let's do some proper English here. Numbers. And then we're going to remap. So you see here's an array, and if I put in numbers right here, you see there's the array. It's untouched. What we're going to do now is we're going to create what's called a map for numbers. And when you do this, basically you're creating a function. Functions don't have to have names though in this language. So you can put inline functions, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in brackets the function, and you notice there's no name to the function because I don't need a name because it's going to be it's in line. So let's do this. We're going to create a variable called number, and it is an integer, and we're going to give it the value of the array element, just like this. So we're basically defining this as a input is basically every number in the array. So it's going to apply this to every number in the array. And first thing I'm going to say is I want the number to be tripled. So I'm going to create another variable, and it's going to be equal to 3 times number, just like so. And then I'm going to return the result. So it goes through that 5 times. We have 5 numbers. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, put down here, and you see itself, it has not changed the actual array, but look right here. It has taken every number times 3, and this mapping over top of the array of numbers is only affecting so basically I could set another array equal to the numbers map. So it's just a way of adjusting an array across the board. Now you can also add other logic. So let's do this. Let's see, do I have, basically what I'm going to say is I only want to see odd numbers. So let's do this. If result is equally divided by 2. Actually, it needs to be remainder is equal to 0. Oh, it's equal, so it's like this. Okay, so I only want to output the result. No, I don't want to output. Yeah, I want to output the result always, but I want to return 0 if it is not that. And then we're going to put this here just like this. Now if you look at the output, all of the odd numbers are output and the even ones are not. So let's go up here. We're going to add another. We're going to make this 9, 10. So we're going to make this 10 just like this. Now you see I'm only outputting. So what I've done is I've added logic inside of this mapping. So I can remap an array and get different results out of it. That's really cool without affecting the original array. The original array is not touched at all. All right, so that's going to be it for this week. This was a long one, and actually I imagine this will be a little bit longer than most of them because the language is very new, and I'm struggling with it because I'm just learning. I mean, I learned it literally yesterday, and so you're learning it from me as I'm learning it. It's learning together. It doesn't happen very often because normally you don't get new languages like this, but it's a pretty cool language so far. I've been playing with it. But we're going to cover classes next week. Classes are really cool in this. There's a couple of things that are odd, like I said before, that I don't quite understand why they are the way they are, but it does tell you that they are that way, and I just don't understand the reason behind it. But I'm sure there's some reason that they did it the way they did it. But otherwise, some of the classing stuff is actually pretty neat. It's, classes are classes. Most all languages have very similar traits when it comes to classes. But this one's done, very similar to the other ones, but has some additional features, or maybe I should say it's combined some features of multiple languages. That's kind of what I've noticed about this language so far. Is it's like taking the best of all the languages and put them together. So I think that's, that was pretty smart of them to sit down and look at what they've done with it. And it's definitely a more modern language compared to their C stuff's been out since, I don't know, 80s sometime. So this is a great upgrade. All right, that's it for this week. We will see everybody next week. For show notes for this show, contacts, and more, go to the TextZen.tv website where you can get show notes for all of our shows. We love to hear from our viewers and listeners. We have an email, a Twitter, and a phone number where you can contact us for each show. For details, visit the TextZen.tv website and get the show details. You can also make a video and upload it somewhere like YouTube or Vimeo, and then just send us a link. You never know, you may see your video in a future show. You can get all of our shows delivered automatically to your favorite device by going to your favorite podcast website like iTunes and subscribing. Each of our shows also has a YouTube channel you can subscribe to get regular updates. Our shows are also available on most internet radio networks like Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. You can also watch and listen to our shows on Xbox, TiVo, and Roku. You can even find us on your Zune.